Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Supermind event live. And today we're with Joe Bailey, who I'm really not sure, Joe, that you need an introduction, because within the community you're just so much part of our lives, and it's really just wonderful to have you here. And most of us have read your books, and I was going to say be moved by them, but that's not quite right. You've been able to give us, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but you've been able to give us so much clarity and so much insight that it's really just wonderful to have you here. And I love the fact you're sitting here with the Christmas tree. I mean, come on. Because the title of the talk today is Stress-Free Approach to the Holidays. And having just come from town, which is heaving with people, and been Switzerland glue wine, I would love for you to speak to us on that subject. I think it's just absolutely wonderful timing, and it'd be wonderful to explore this with you. So hello and welcome.
Hi, Tammy, and hello, everybody, and happy holidays to everyone and all. And it's always a great privilege to talk to all of you. And Brett, I've talked to Brett a few times, and others. Sarah interviewed me, I think, last time, and so it's nice to meet you, Tammy. We'll be having our conversation with you and with all. But this is a topic. As I listen to people, as you said, you often hear people say, "Oh God, this is such a stressful time of the year. I just hate it. I hate Christmas." Oh, kind of missing things. And I've got so much to do and so many gifts to buy. And will I buy the right present for Aunt Susie or for my kids or my spouse? Will they like what I'm getting? Will I like what they're giving me, or am I going to have to act like I like it and not like it and take it back and re-gift it? And so, kind of the spirit of the holidays can get lost very easily with trying to have the perfect holiday. And that's probably true of really anything in life. Anytime we have stress, it's because we're trying to do something rather than be something. And for me, that's really what I want to talk about today, is being through the holidays rather than surviving the holidays or doing the holidays or getting through the holidays. Because it's understandable, because we have a lot of memories about this time of the year. Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you're celebrating at this time of the year. For many people who maybe come from families where holidays were super stressful and sometimes even traumatic, because it was, alcoholism or violent time, or, it was when all of the crazy relatives got together at once in one room. It was really a really difficult period. So a lot of us have a lot of memories about Christmas that come back during this time, and we don't even consciously know it. It's invisible thinking. All of a sudden we start feeling a lot of emotion that we don't even know why. It's really out of our conscious awareness of why we feel the way we do. But like with all stress, in understanding the paradigm of our experience coming from the inside out rather than the outside in, through the power of our mind and the power of thought and the power of consciousness, we're reminded that holiday stress is really no different than traffic stress or work stress or stress that we bring into any occasion in our lives. We can get stressed out about having a wonderful time. And I think the holidays is a great illustration of that. Because we're supposed to be having such a good time, we bring a lot of thoughts, expectations, anticipation, dread, but a lot of thinking. It's just a lot of thinking about all of this stuff, the tree, the presence of that. And And I'm just so blessed. I feel so fortunate that I've discovered for myself, and I know so many of you who are listening here today have discovered for yourselves to varying degrees of freedom to wherever you are, whatever the time of the year, to be free to be present. And that's the greatest present that any of us can receive, is to be present. You know, I think it's a great thing that we call presence, because it is really, a present is really just a symbol. It's just a metaphor for love, you know, because this is a time for expressing love and sharing love and family, and it's a reminder at this time of the year how much we appreciate one another and what we're grateful for. And so one way of showing that is to send a card or call people, wish them a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, whatever your celebration is. Happy Boxing Day if you're in London. Sorry about that. I forgot about that, Fritz. Whatever we do to celebrate what we're, the real purpose of it, the real intent of it, is to express this feeling of oneness. Because when we feel love, we're experiencing our universal humanity, that we all are the same underneath it, all of our differences, all of our religions, all of the ways we all look differently, dress differently, different colors, different religions, different languages, different appearances, different ages, different life experiences. Underneath that all, we have this common denominator of how we create our experience. And it's a gift to yourself to remember that as you go through your days here over this holiday season, that there'll be times when it'll be quite natural for you to get caught up in the frenzy, or, you know, you're standing in line at a department store and it's 50 deep, and you want to get through the line so you can get to the party or get home and get ready, and everybody's in a bad mood around you because they're all stressed out about the holidays or about Christmas or about traffic or about whatever is on their minds. It's easy to catch their bah humbug attitude. And when we do catch that, it looks like we're catching their bad attitude, but we're really just having thoughts of our own about their attitude. So thought's a tricky deal. Other people get in a low mood or caught up and stressed in the holidays. It's easy to think that you're getting their feeling. You're catching their feeling. But if you know this very simple understanding that you're always only feeling your thinking, that's all we're ever feeling is our own thinking. Isn't that something? It's like the simplest thing in the world, but it's so easy to forget because of the nature of mind, thought, and consciousness. Thought comes to life instantly in a moment, and it creates a psychological reality that we think is true, rather than an illusion of our own thinking. So the simple formula for having a great holiday is really just to stay awake. Stay awake to the fact of your thinking and your creation. You are creating a feeling, whether you know it or not. And I forget every day. I forget many times every day that my experience is coming from my thinking. And that's the way it's supposed to be. We're just going through life and having whatever experience out of it that we have. But it's especially important when we start to veer away into stress or unrealistic expectations or wishing things would be different. This is another really stressful thing to do, is to have wishful thinking about the holidays. Oh, I just wish that this year will be different. And this year will be as good as last year, or this year will be as good as the best year I ever had in the holiday. So wishful thinking is another sneaky little devil of a thought that will take us so cleverly out of the moment, out of the present, and into our imagination of thought. And then we start comparing and contrasting our present experience with the image that we have in our head about what we were wishing for. What's on your wish list for Christmas? Huh? What's on your wish list? Be wary of wishes. It's okay to want things. I don't mean to say we shouldn't want things or have desire. That's human too. But be careful of having attachment to your wishes. Because when you get attached to a wish and you don't get what you wish for, you get disappointment, hurt, anger, frustration. Yeah, it was a nice holiday, but it wasn't quite what I was expecting. The other day, I took my grandchildren. I have three grandchildren, and my wife Michael and I we took the three of them to go see Dickens' Christmas Carol play at the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis. And it's this wonderful theater. They have extraordinary performances. And the kids had never seen A Christmas Carol, and they're 10, 13, and 16. So we thought this would be a great way to start the holiday season. So we took them there, and they didn't know what to expect. You know, they'd been to school plays, but they hadn't been to a big, Broadway-style performance with real actors and incredible sets and all that. So we were watching the play, and they were just kind of glued to it. They were just like they'd never seen special effects like that right in front of them. And, Marley popping out of the center of the stage and jingling his chains, and little Tyler sitting next to me was just grabbed on really tight. He was just terrified, and it was so incredible to watch their eyes as they saw this story, because they didn't even know the story, which was shocking to me. I don't know what the younger generation. I grew up on the Christmas Carol, and it was on every cartoon. They'd never seen it before, so it was their first time experiencing the wisdom and the insight that Dickens wrote about in 1843, not that long ago. I have a Christmas present here for you guys. My little kitty cat just wanted to say Merry Christmas. She's on my lap now. Sorry, this tail. Hey, it happened.
Could you explain before the tail popped up? That was good.
But I love Dickens' Christmas Carol because it really talks to the three principles perfectly. And, Ebenezer Scrooge was a very bitter, unhappy, wealthy man who hoarded all of his gold and was the personification of not having the Christmas spirit. Bah humbug, he would say. Why don't they have Christmas in the summer when the goose are cheaper? His nephew asked him, why don't you have a goose? Oh, I wouldn't spend that much money on a goose. You know how expensive they are, and they get more expensive every year. And anything anybody said to him, it was, bah humbug, and he was just so negative. So his former partner, Marley, was the same as he was, maybe even worse. But as the years had gone on, Scrooge got even worse than Marley was at the time of his death. And Marley came to warn him that if you keep going like this, Scrooge, you're going to have a horrible life and a horrible life afterlife. And I've come back from the dead to warn you this. And, you'll be visited by three ghosts, the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. So, of course, you all know the story, and it was just great theater production. But, the Christmas past, showed Ebenezer when he was happy, at a time when he was in love, and a time when he actually was not selfish and stingy and not caught up in his ego, not caught up in his thinking, that he was just enjoying life. And how a little bit over time, he got more and more caught up in his ideas about life and his thoughts. And he lost that feeling of happiness. He lost that feeling of gratitude and joy. And then the ghost of Christmas present came and showed all of the other people in his life and what was happening in their lives. Tiny Tim and Bob Cratchit, his loyal employee, and how they were feeling joy. And he was, of course, offended that they were so happy with such a small little bird. Why could they be happy with a small bird? Can't they get something bigger than that? Of course, they couldn't, because of the salary he paid Bob Cratchit. And so on and so forth. But the message was so poignant and powerful and especially with the ghost of the future, when he could see what would happen to him in the future if he kept going this way. And it woke him up. It was an awakening. It was a transformation. A great classical theatrical story of human transformation. A shift to a higher level of consciousness. His consciousness changed in that one night with those three visitors. And it woke him up, just like all of us have been woken up. And when I say woken up, I don't mean like one awakening. I mean we get woken up by the principles, by the awareness that we're feeling our thinking in the moment again and again and again. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is to think that transformation to the present moment, to being awake in life and realizing where your experience is coming from your own powers of mind, thought, and consciousness, that we think of that as an event. Oh, I got it. I finally got it about my thinking. That's kind of, it ain't all what it's cracked up to be, this transformational thing, in my opinion. It's great that if you have an experience like that. In a Lollapalooza one, even better. Does that translate into European? Lollapalooza is a really big insight. And it's great. And I've had occasion to have some really big insights. But for me, it's the ordinary day-to-day awakenings in the line at the shopping mall, when you get impatient and you wait and you're all frustrated and you're stressing out, and then you wake up and you realize, oh, it's my thinking. And you just enjoy the time in the line, and you start talking to the person next to you, and you have this incredible conversation and this connection because you remembered that it was your thinking that was creating your stress in the line, not the line. Or you're in traffic and you're rushing and stressing out to get where you're going, and you wake up in an ordinary way and you realize, oh, it's my thinking again. And not chastising yourself for getting caught up in your thinking any more than you would chastise yourself for stumbling over a stone on the walkway. You just didn't see it, and you tripped. And gravity did what gravity does. It made you stumble and maybe fall. Gravity doesn't care. It's impersonal. It's neutral. And so are the principles. They're absolutely neutral. They just, whatever we put in this power of thought, we will get an experience of it. It will translate into an experience instantly, in the moment, through the power of thought. So when we wake up this holiday season, as you go through it. And you just wake up moment by moment, and you fall asleep moment by moment. You forget. We all forget. And it's so important to know that this isn't a there that you get to. This is more like balance. You're going in and out of balance. I heard a story, Dr. Ken Manning and Sandy Crott and Robin Chevrolet, who are with an organization called Insight Principles Consulting. And they work a lot in Europe and US and Fortune 100 companies. And they have a new book coming out this year sometime. And they had a quote in the beginning of one of the chapters. It was a story of a Aikido master. And this Aikido master was very old and had many students. And one day he took on 20 of his students. And they were all trying to knock him down. And his goal that he gave them was to knock him down. And one would attack him after another, all 20 of them. And they were all much younger than he was. And they were all masters as well, very highly trained instructors. And they never knocked him down. And afterwards, one of his students came up to him and said, "How did you stay balanced this whole time when we were attacking you with everything we had?" And he said, "Oh, I lost my balance many, many, many times. I just regained it quickly." So that's what the principles do. They don't keep you in a state of perfect balance once you have an insight about them. They allow you to rebound, to regain your balance. And that's all resilience is. That's all mental health is. It's not being in a wonderful, lovely feeling all the time or serene all the time. You know, just because I wrote the Serenity Principle doesn't mean I'm serene all the time.
That's the best Christmas present I could receive, is to be told that. I don't know about you guys. I'm just like, yes, it's okay. It's just giving us all a wonderful Christmas present.
Well, you know, and I do a lot of training, and I always am just honest with people because I've got nothing to hide. And that they always say that what you just said, Tammy. The biggest gift you gave me was to let me know about your humanity. And you're going in and out of this because so many people learn the principles and then they have this heavy weight on them that I should always be in the moment. I should always be resilient. I should always be in a good mood. I should always be happy. I should always be fill in the blank, wise, loving. No, forget about it. Just forget it. That doesn't mean it's not nice when you feel that. And it's important to know that those feelings of discomfort and stress and anger and anxiety are there for a reason. But the reason isn't so that you can hit yourself over the head with the principles, that you're not getting it. The reason is to bring you back in balance. When you get out of balance, you can feel a tension. You know, like as soon as I lean this way, I have a tension in my muscles in my back. So when I sit up straight, oh, this feels better. So if I just kind of gradually started leaning over here, and then I can't even see you. You know, after a while, I'd get a crick in my neck, and I'd say, oh, geez, no wonder I'm, feeling this way. I'm all out of balance, and I just right myself. Well, hopefully I don't have to fall off the chair to wake up and realize I'm going out of balance. But if I do, my divine intelligence will let me know with a feeling. Just let me know. It's just information. We judge ourselves and others way too much with the principles. That's not what they're there for. Gravity isn't there to judge us. We don't say, oh, that damn gravity. It's ruining my day.
It must think I'm so stupid to keep, things keep falling to the ground. What am I doing wrong?
Yesterday, I took my 2 grandsons and my wife. We went. We bought them snowboards for Christmas, so we took them snowboard. And Tyler's and Justin are just learning. They've had 1 lesson. This is their 2nd time ever being out. So they were falling all over the place. And it was like, no big deal. They'd laugh and get back up and do it again. Fall down, laugh, get back up and do it again. Oh, this is really cool, Papa Joe. God, this is really cool. Can we go to a bigger mountain? We were on the kind of the gradual slope. And Tyler immediately wanted to go to the snowboard, the half pipe and the jump. So I said, okay, if you wanna, but I'm telling you, you're really not ready. So he says, no, I want to do it. So I said, okay, let's go. He said, I think I better go back to the beginner hill. I've gone I pushed myself too far, but I let him do it so he could see that it was too far. It's not bad. It's not a bad. I said, at some point you'll be able to do that, Tyler, and you'll have fun doing it, but you have to gain a skill level. So we're all at a point where we have to gain a skill level with the principles, and as we get better and have more insight, we're able to take on more in our life, and we're given more opportunities. Like, my wife and I were laying in bed last night, and we had just come to from a memorial service. One of my angels in my life, a person who was a mentor to me, a friend, and my first partner in private practice, died recently of cancer at age 81. And she was one of I call them my angels because she believed in me before I believed in me. And I was working at a chemical dependency training center called the Johnson Institute, and she was the sex therapist that came there and showed the staff, taught human sexuality to the staff and counselors and stuff. And she, we got to know each other, and after a couple of years, she asked me if I would go into private practice with her. And I was honored because she was a very respected teacher and excellent family therapist and all that. But I was like, who, me? I don't think I can do this. And, I've had all those feelings of inadequacy, and I couldn't imagine charging people to talk to me. And I was only 28. I was young. And, but she just always, she could see 10 years into your future of what you were capable of. And she did this with everyone, because at the memorial last night, everyone said the same thing. Marilyn saw more in me than anybody had ever seen in me. And she convinced me that I could be that, who I already was in her mind. And she wasn't just blowing smoke. She could see people's gifts. She had a gift for seeing people's gifts. And so Michael and I, she and I were laying in bed afterwards, and she said, God, Joe, you are the luckiest human being I have ever met. Do you know that? She says, you don't even seem to try to be successful. And you've written all these books. You didn't even want to be a writer. You never wanted to be a public speaker. You didn't even want to be successful. You were kind of mediocre in your aspirations. And all this stuff happens to you. How does that happen? And I said, I have no idea. But it's true. I'm just like so lucky. And she says, and I'm not jealous of you. She says, and I'm not upset with you, and I'm not even saying you don't deserve it, because you're a really cool guy and you're really should be successful, but how the hell do you do this? Because it doesn't even seem like you want it. I mean, it's not that I don't enjoy it and I'm not grateful for opportunities, but and I said, well, I don't really know. I just have always been kind of lucky, and maybe it has something to do with not caring if I'm successful or not caring that much if I'm do this or that. But I don't really know. And then we, I don't know, we were just talking about this, and it kind of occurred to me that when you like Sid Banks told me this the first year I knew him. He said, Joe, you're going to be writing books and traveling around the world and speaking at universities and changing the field of addictions and mental health. And I thought he was absolutely insane, delusional. And, you know, like, he obviously doesn't know me. And he said, no, it's the principles, it's their time, it's coming into the world, and it will change psychiatry, psychology, and humanity. And that was a bold thing to say when there was nothing happening yet. There were no books, Alan. There were no books, no tape, except a few Sid Banks tapes. Alan, I think you've been around this longer than I have. And there was no mental health centers, no jails that had been transformed, no communities, no healthcare systems, no alcoholics, no schizophrenics. There was no results, or very little results that anybody knew, no scientific studies, no evidence. And yet, he could say it as if he was saying, there's a Christmas tree behind you, Joe. Just look. No, there's no Christmas tree behind me. Just look. Oh, okay, you're right. So when we all have a different purpose, we all have a different role in the world. Some of us are counselors, some of us are teachers, some of us are writers, some of us are moms and dads, and some of us are policemen, and some are nurses and doctors, and I don't know, housekeepers and administrators, and we all have a different calling. Something about that, I like doing that. You know, so something that we love to do, and we're drawn to that. And when we don't let our own thinking get in the way, we realize the gift of our purpose. So that's all that happened with me. I just got lucky. I hit the lottery on mental health and met Sid Banks 34 years ago and found out how to get out of my own way so I could be all I could be. And I had a lot of other people along the way who reminded me just like Sid did. Many who didn't even know the principles. My mom, my favorite aunt, Millie, my godmother, Teresa. I'm realizing they're almost all women. Oh, Sid Banks. I'm sorry, Sid Banks. He wasn't a woman. He was not a woman. But you know, this is what we're here to remind each other of who we are already, and encourage that, and remind ourselves when we fall asleep and whatever thought we have gets put into reality. And if we're creating a nightmare, it wakes us up and says it's a nightmare. You know, you have a nightmare, a really bad one, it wakes you up at night. So you can remember it's a nightmare. And we all have daymares. that we need to wake up from. And that's what our feelings are there for. They're there just to wake us up. So, I don't know how much of this has been on the holiday season, but I think it's pertinent now just to remind us of what's happening 365 days a year, and that's that we're given the gift of this moment. And it's just in the holidays that we get maybe more tuned into that, and we slow down, and we have a moment of magic. I'll show you a picture real quick. Whoops. I hope that. This is my grandson when he was about 4. And it's a picture of seeing magic of Santa. Because he's looking at all the little Santa Claus figures. And he was told, his mom says, "Now don't touch any of those." So of course he had to touch them with his finger. And he was in that awe of the magic of Santa Claus, and how does Santa Claus come down the chimney, and wow, how does he give gifts to every kid in the whole planet? And it's mystical. So from the time we were really little, we were into the mystical side of life. And I know Christmas and all that stuff is made up, and it's because we love looking at kids who are still in the mystery of it, because it reminds us of when we felt that. But really learning about the spiritual essence of life is way more mystical than Christmas. And it's every day, all the time, 24/7. Because whenever we have that ordinary moment of awakening and we see the power we have to create, we're pretty mystified, we're pretty in awe, and we're pretty grateful. So with that, let's take questions.
Wow. I've got to be able to read now. This is going to be difficult. Alan wrote a question for you. And he says to ask Joe to say a few words about the really powerful emotions this time of year that seem to have a life of their own and are really hard just to turn away from the idea that it's just my thinking.
Yeah. So let me see if I understand Alan's question. Alan, can you unmute for a second?
Yeah, can I, Alan, is that okay if you nod your head? Can I unmute you? Is that okay? Yeah, he's big grin from Alan, so if I just, there we are.
Hey,
Alan, you're unmuted.
Hi, Joe. Hi, Joe.
Why don't you ask me again in your own words live?
Oh, this is of interest to me, I think, because it seems to me that I have scary thoughts, some of which are pretty easy to deal with, that I can just turn away from, and really say to myself, "Oh, there I go again down that road."
Yeah.
And there are other scary thoughts that are really, really frightening. When things happen that are beyond what you expect, maybe. So what I would love you to do, if you're willing, is just to say a few words about how, just to say a few words about that, about what, yeah, about how the principles, for example, how the principles help you when the thoughts you have are so scary, they have you by the throat.
Well, I would have to say that every one of us in this gallery here has had those moments. I've had them. Let me tell you a story. There's a young woman who went through treatment at a Three Principles Treatment Center in Florida. And she was a heroin addict. She's 21 years old and have been through treatment 9 times and detoxification 33 times and halfway houses and on and on. And she only started using when she was 14. So she'd been pretty much getting help or using all of her adolescence and young adulthood. And she said that what helped her in treatment more than anything wasn't, she knew she was a drug addict, duh. I'm a drug addict, I know I got a problem, but what helped her was to have an insight about fear, because her really scary emotion was panic disorder. She would have panic attacks, full-blown, feel like I'm having a heart attack, panic attacks. The room's closing in, I'm claustrophobic, I want to run screaming feeling. That's about as serious as you can get with an emotion. One of the most major emotional roller coasters there is. And she said, she read my book, Fear Proof Your Life, and a light bulb went off with her, and she realized that fear was a thought. It didn't have a life of its own. It appeared to have a life of its own until she understood as an insight that it was thought. Now, she understood it intellectually as she was reading the book, but at some point in reading the book, the light went off and she realized it as an insight. So that's a different knowing. And from that point forward in treatment, she said, for the first time I felt comfortable in my own skin, and for the first time in my life, I started feeling happy. I started feeling joy and gratitude and ease, and I thought, I think I can make it now without drugs. So she got out of treatment, and I was assigned her to be her aftercare counselor. And I said, so how's it going? I'll just call her Susie. And how's it going? And she says, well, it's great. She says, I haven't had an urge to use heroin or any drugs since I left treatment. It's been a week. Usually I'm using the day I get out. I'm like, I can't wait to get out so I can use again. Because as soon as I get out, I'm back in the anxiety, the panic. And I didn't even have any panic attacks until week 2. Week 2, I went in the Verizon store with my sister, and she was shopping for a phone, and I was just hanging out with my sister. And all of a sudden, I got really paranoid about what everybody was thinking about me in the store. And my thoughts just spun out of control. And I started feeling that heaviness on my chest and my heart rate. And I ran out of the store, and I got in the car. And I just sat there, and I was like, oh, God, I got to calm myself down again. Oh, God, I don't want to have a panic attack. I don't want to have a panic attack. And she was going into the tailspin. And she said, and all of a sudden, it just hit me. It was my thinking again. And as soon as I had that, it was my thinking again. It wasn't what they were thinking about me. It was my thinking that they were thinking about me that was causing it. And once I saw that, I was like home again. I was safe.
Safe. Yeah, safe.
And she said, now that's happened to me several times. And every time it happens, I fear having fear less and less. Because a panic attack is a fear of fear. If you've ever had a panic attack, and I have, it's a horrible thing. It's just like a Lollapalooza bad feeling. And if you start having them on a regular basis, you're kind of in dread of having another one. Like epilepsy, having a seizure or something. Like you don't want to have another one of those. And so it becomes a vicious cycle. So your fear of the fear actually feeds the fear and leads to the panic attack again. So what she realized was that she would still have the same thoughts, maybe her whole life, but she didn't have to be afraid of having those thoughts. That she was the thinker of those thoughts rather than them being something. And she said, and the other part of that is knowing that the only time I think of using drugs or heroin is when I'm in a panic. So if I can stop the panic, I can stop relapse. So just because a thought is in your memory, in your personality, in your conditioning, in your habit, doesn't mean that it has power or that it is you. Even biochemical. We work with schizophrenics, paranoid schizophrenics, with the principles. They still have hallucinations from time to time. Their meds get a little off or whatever. And they'll say, oh, well, I'm just having hallucinations. Better get the meds tuned a little bit. So they know their hallucinations are thought. And they're not frightened by their hallucinations. They might be initially, and then they, that's right. It's my chemistry's off. So they're not living at the mercy of their brain chemistry or their genetics. They, in the same way that all of you here have cancer cells in your body. Some of you may have cancer. I don't know. I can't see all of you, or I don't know all of you. But most of us don't have cancer, even though we have cancer cells, because our immune system is strong enough that we're in balance or in health and we don't have cancer. We also have all kinds of bacteria in our bodies, but we're not sick because our immune system is stronger. So mental health is just an understanding of your thinking that's greater than the power of your individual thoughts and habits and genetics. So you never get rid of your ego, for example. You never get rid of your past. You never get rid of your memories, but you see them from a different level of consciousness that frees you from taking them seriously for very long. You will have moments where you take them very seriously because they're very gripping. They're very real. And the harder you grip, if you've had an insight in the past, sooner or later you'll remember, oh, I've been here before. I remember this feeling. Oh, and I had that insight that it was my thinking. Oh, why didn't I see that now? Oh, I guess I just did. Oh, I just thought, oh, thank God. Oh, the three ghosts of Christmas, past, present, and future. It was just a dream. It was just a dream. I'm okay. And I'm going to give everybody presents. Any other questions?
So Alan, did you have any more questions, Joe?
No, that was great. That was great. I'm thinking about all the Marleys I have in my life. Yeah. And when I am so gripped, you know, by a feeling and the thoughts around that feeling, sometimes it's really hard to let go, and sometimes I just have to go, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, sometimes
this
ride the storm. Well, yeah, you just ride the storm.
Yeah.
Ride the till it peters out. Yeah. Wow, boy, I'm really nuts right now. Oh well. It'll be over at some point. I'm just temporarily insane. It's not a permanent condition.
No, thank you, Joe.
Insanity, the less it lasts. It's a paradox. And the more you work, oh God, like I went through a period in the principles where I thought, oh, I'm really terrible because I'm not doing the principles all the time.
Yeah.
And I've written books about it. What if they find out what a phony I am? Or what if they find out that I still get angry and still get hurt and still get jealous and still have all the feelings that everybody else does? And it was so freeing to know that, oh, I'm just outside in. In other words, it looks like my feelings are coming from the outside in versus the inside out. That's so helpful to know that. Oh, I'm just outside in. And if you can be outside in and not feel shame about it, or judge yourself for it, or feel like you're a bad person, or that you're stupid, or that you don't get it, and instead you just, oh, okay, I just, like Tyler, he falls down on the snowboard, he just gets back up and does it again. He doesn't quit doing snowboarding. He's having fun learning how to snowboard. We're having fun learning how to surf our thoughts. We're surfing our thoughts. And if you get some big waves, that's even more cool. Like, I love to ski downhill, and the bigger the mountain, the happier I am. Because it's just like, wow, this is so cool. Gravity is such a cool thing. Now, at the end of the day, when I'm exhausted and I'm wearing out, all of a sudden I'll get afraid and I'll feel like I'm just a beginner skier again, and my skill level will go way down. I go, oh, it's time to get off the mountain. You're going to get hurt if you stay up here. Now, go back to your room. Get some rest. And then tomorrow, when you're refreshed, you go play again. So it's just like that with our thoughts. And we get big mountains some days, don't we? We get big waves. And that's a good thing, because that's how our skill level gets even higher with the principles. It's through experience. Experience is the greatest teacher if you have understanding. If you don't have understanding, it's just a slap in the face again. But once you gain an understanding of the principles and how life works from the inside out, every time you fall, you come up a little higher, and you learn from it. You gain more wisdom. So it's a Sid used to say, life's a contact sport. You're going to play in the game, you're going to get knocked down. Any other questions?
Yes, I have one from Shirley, and what I'll do is I'll just unmute Shirley and put you through. Shirley, you're unmuted now. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Joe.
Hi, Shirley.
Hello, could you please share some more about impact? I'm wondering about how impact works. I understand we're living in the feeling of our thinking, and still we are impacted by people with a higher consciousness. Is it the consciousness? Is it mind? What is impacting others? Like when you're teaching or sharing the principles, you're impacting.
Yeah. What is that impact?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you're hearing something that's truthful, it's almost like that part of you that already knows this, but it's not conscious yet,
Mm-hmm.
has a resonance with the truth. So you can hear something much deeper than your level of consciousness. You can hear something that's way beyond you, and it will impact you even though you don't know what it is. So you'll get touched by the minister or the priest or the speaker who's saying something very truthful, and it inspires you. We've all, as we've grown up in life, we've been inspired by people, and then we've admired them for their wisdom. And we didn't realize that what they were saying we could not have heard if it wasn't in us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if I play my guitar and I pluck a chord or a string, if you had another guitar sitting next to it, that same string would start vibrating in resonance, in harmony with that. It's a resonance. It vibrates together. So our minds are all from the same source. We all have a mind, but we're all part of a universal mind. This is what universal mind is. So when someone is speaking from truth, they're speaking from mind, and you're connected to the same mind as the person speaking. And so that's why you hear it and you get touched by it, you get moved by it, because it's in you. So you're really just hearing your own truth. And you couldn't hear it if you weren't hearing it from yourself. You couldn't hear it from them if, you know, like there's a lot of people that will listen to truth and not be touched by it at all. So what a bunch of BS that is. And other people are like crying and just so impacted. So if it was the speaker doing it, they'd all be crying and moved. But because you have to listen, your mind has to be open. Like Sid also used to say, you know, the mind's like a parachute, it only works when it's open. You know, you have to listen. You have to be open to be impacted. If you're cynical or hopeless, and let's say you have a client that's cynical and hopeless and has given up on themselves, you don't try to teach them truth. You give them compassion. You listen to them. You love them until they're ready to hear something from you. When we work with addicts at the treatment center, first thing we do is we take care of their bodies. They stay in detox till they're out of withdrawal, and then we detox them some more until and we feed them healthy food, and we put them out in the sun, and we get to the point where their body is healthy enough where they can actually hear what we're saying about the principles. If we tried to tell them when they were in detox, going through withdrawal or seizures, it'd be kind of a waste of time. Now, I'm not saying nobody could hear something when they're going through withdrawal. Sometimes people have insight then too, but it's a little harder. Like I can even catch a baseball in the outfield every now and then, but I'm not in the major leagues. Or I can hit a golf ball straight every now and then, but I'm no Tiger Woods. But if you're really open and you really want to know something, and you're with someone who's speaking from truth, your level will just keep coming up until you think, oh, I know it all now. And this happens too. You quit listening. You think I've arrived. I got it now. And then as soon as you quit listening, then you're living off the fumes of yesterday's gas. You know, it doesn't run your engine. It's just old thoughts. You have to talk from the heart rather than the intellect. If you talk from the intellect, you're talking about what you know that's stored in memory, but you're not talking from the well where it came from, the well of insight. Like when I'm talking to you guys right now, I have no idea what I'm going to say. None whatsoever. When I sat down, I had a few general, I'll talk about the holidays or something, but I don't really know what I'm going to say. But I know that if I just open up my mouth and I've got the you know, I'm just really wanting to help, I don't have to worry about it. It's
Yeah,
not,
sorry.
what?
Your starting point is from a good feeling. So it seems to me that a good feeling is having impact on others, but it's not going via the thinking.
Right. Yeah, and the feelings aren't something you can make up.
Mm-hmm.
The feeling you're in comes from your state of mind. So, see, the feeling comes from thought. Now, there's personal thought that's in the intellect, and then there's impersonal thought that's wisdom, that's not ours. You can't own it.
Mm-hmm.
It's more, so when we're speaking from that impersonal intelligence, and I have no idea how that happens. I really don't. But I know when it's happening, I can feel it. It feels different. I feel connected. I feel out of my own way. And I have had many moments where I'm losing it, and I know it, and I'm like, oh God, I'm not in the feeling. You know, if I try to think my way back to it, it just gets worse. So it's just kind of for me, it's over the past 34 years, it's just gotten easier to go there because I just know it's there. It's like when I go up on the top of the mountain now, I'm not afraid of the mountain. I know how to ski, and it doesn't matter. I know how to stop. I know how to turn. I don't have to worry about it. But before I knew that fear kept me alive, so I didn't go up on the mountain. I stayed on the bunny hill until I learned how to do that. So as you get more understanding and more insight, you're able to keep your balance in more and more difficult circumstances. You can take on bigger challenges, and life will often give them to you. And you might have the thought, oh God, I don't know if I can do it. This is really huge. This is really beyond me. Oh, I don't know if I can do this. Now what comes into my mind is, hey, you felt this way 1,000 times, and you've always been fine before. So why is this any different? Now, oh, okay, you're right. What the heck? Let's go for it. And it's just, so it just gets, it does get easier. There's an evolution built into the principles that keeps evolving you. It paints you into a corner where you realize sooner or later that, oh, it's my thinking again that's doing this. It's not all of them out there. It's my thoughts that's creating my experience. And sooner or later, it dawns on you, oh, it's my thinking again. We call this flat forehead therapy. I've used that term a lot because we're always going like, oh God, it's my thinking again. And your forehead gets really calloused right about here because you're realizing over and over again, how could you forget your thinking? Let me show you something. I just love this. You guys probably, I got this from Jeff. Thank you, Jeff, for this, by the way. Oh, wait a minute. Never mind. I can't do it. I'm not the host. Anyway, I'll just tell the story. Jeff sent me a video once of this guy's talk where he has these two young goldfish swimming through their aquarium, and they run into an older goldfish, and he says to the two young ones, hey boys, how's the water? And they swim along a little further, and one looks at the other and says, what the hell is water? So water is all around us, right? Thought is all over. We live in a world of thought. psychologically. We're in a world of thought. And so we don't even know we're thinking because it's always there. It's like air. You can't see air, but you wouldn't be here if you weren't breathing air. You take it for granted because you can't see it. You can't see thought. You can't see gravity, but if you didn't have it, you'd be floating up on the ceiling, banging your head on the ceiling right now without gravity. Doesn't mean it's not real just because you can't see it. Just because you can't see your thinking doesn't mean you're not living in the experience of your thinking. But when you wake up, Shirley, to your thinking, maybe because someone says something really wise or really truthful, and it may be someone who doesn't even know what they just said. When Sid had his insight, the psychologist walking along him said, well, Sid, don't you know that you're not really insecure? You just think you are? And Sid says, my God, man, do you realize what you've just said? And the psychologist said, well, of course I did. I said it. But later Sid realized he had no idea what he had just said because what he heard led to his enlightenment. It was so profound. But it wasn't what the guy said. It was Sid's insight that led to the enlightenment. And the words were just the trigger. Now, I don't know how that happened. I'm really glad it did, or I wouldn't be having this conversation with you guys right now. But maybe it would have happened another way. I don't know. Truth has been around forever. It's just been hidden in the hearts of every human being, and it's peeked its head out all over the place through poetry and Dickens' Christmas Carol story and a million other pieces of literature and song and religions, and it's been there like hidden right in plain sight. Hidden in plain sight. That's what truth is. So who else?
I have an anonymous question, and this person says, I would like to know how we can trust and have faith in mind, and trust that it's, I get this right, and trust that it's not just an idea, that mind is not just an idea or another thought, I would add.
So kind of how do you know if it's real, or is it Memorex?
How can we have trust and faith?
Real,
Yeah.
Real truth. Is it this really mind speaking, or is this just my ego disguising itself as mind? Is that what you mean?
I don't know. I can only go on what's written.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that's a great question, and I guess you kind of only know in hindsight, in a way, and it's a game of hide and seek. You know, you just got to give it your best shot. You know, this feels really right, and if it really is right, if it really is truthful, you'll know in hindsight that it really was. That was really an insight. That really was exactly what I needed to be doing there. And if it wasn't, then that was just another learning experience about how tricky the ego is and how tricky your thinking is. And so it gives you humility to see, oh wow, even when I really think I'm right, I can be wrong. That doesn't mean I shouldn't trust my insight. It just means, wow, this thought thing's pretty tricky. I better have some respect for it. Because it's very, it's like a really good lawyer can argue both sides of the case equally well. That's what the intellect is. It's a lawyer or a barrister if you're in England. The the intellect is just logic. It's an internal, self-fulfilling, self-validating logic. An insight is something that has a universal logic that transcends the intellect. And when I'm having an insight, like let's say I'm troubled by something. Like last week, for example, I was consulting with an organization, and I could tell that some people that there was some things that needed to change for this organization to move forward in their practicing of the principles or teaching the principles. That there needed to be more alignment and more synergy. And I didn't know how the heck I was going to bring that about, because people were pretty convinced that they were all right. And so I went inside. You know what I mean by going inside. I asked my true self, my divine mind, whatever you want, whatever it is. I said, hey, I need a little help here. Can I get a lifeline here? I don't know what to do. And I was just in wonder, and I just started writing to see what would come out. And I do this from time to time, not always, every day or anything, but when I'm up against something that I really don't know what to do, I'll go inside and I'll reflect.
Mm-hmm.
And when I get an insight from mind answer, I kind of know now what that feels like and sounds like. I've gotten better at that. It's like when I first started playing guitar, I couldn't tell a G note from a B note. I had to develop an ear for it. And after a while, you can hear the difference. And for me now, it's like I can hear the difference between my ego is more tinny. It has a tinny sound to it. It's like, and I have energy behind it. I feel like righteous about it. There's a, I feel proud of it. When I get what my friend George Patterson refers to as a God shot, he calls them God shots. It just comes, what comes with it is this awe and humility, and oh, that's absolutely true. There's no doubt about it. And it calms me down. It just like, oh, okay, this is cool. I got it now. This is going to be fine. So I don't know how to better say it than that. If I knew a better way to say it, I would. But it's just kind of a, like when you hear a song played in tune, you don't have to be a musician to know it's in tune.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's off. Something's off there. You might not have an ear of a musician could say, oh, no, it's the bass guitar's G string is off. They're like, well, how do they know that? But they can know that. They just, because they hear it. I could never hear that in a million years, but I just know something doesn't sound right. I don't know what it is. So it's like that. It's like you kind of know something's off, or something is like, oh, that's in harmony. I like that. That feels right.
Michelle would like to take this further with you, so I can put you through to her just to speak a bit more on that, if that's okay.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Joe.
How you doing?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Sure. Oh, yes.
I'm a bit quiet my end, I can't hear a lot. Okay. Yeah, I can see Tammy for some reason. I guess Joe will appear when he speaks in a minute. I have plenty of insights. That's not what I'm getting at really with this. I think something that's rumbling around, troubling me slightly at the moment is where, how do we know, it's not how do we know that truth is truth. How can we trust that truth is not just a trick? And this concerns me particularly with directing my son to it. And whether I'm not just sharing something that's another idea for me with him. And I must say within that I do feel truth very strongly and very clearly. And my awareness of it is profound, really. And even though I know that other people, when they're in that space, talk the same kind of language, if you like, to interpret that place, at the same time, you know, something's entered my mind that don't we do the same with fear? And if fear is just a product of thinking, how do we know that truth isn't?
You know by the results. You know, it's like before we knew, are you in London?
Am I in London?
Yeah.
I'm in England, yeah.
You're in England.
I'm in England, yeah.
In England, there was a terrible epidemic there of cholera back in the 1800s. And 140,000 people died. And the conventional wisdom at the time was that cholera was being caused from the air. It was in the air. And Dr. John Snow was a young medical student working in the mines in northern England. And he realized that everybody else was getting cholera but him. All the miners that he was treating were dying from cholera. And they were drinking the water from the bottom of the mine, polluted. It is, at that time in history, people had no idea that you shouldn't drink water that you used as sewage. People didn't have sewer systems. They didn't have purified Evian water from the springs of Paris or Switzerland or whatever. They drank water that they maybe just gone to the bathroom right there and they drank it. It registered to them that was a bad idea. And so when Dr. John Snow told his professors this, they thought he was crazy. They said, oh, well, everybody knows that it's in the air. And he just said, okay. But he kind of had a hunch. He had an insight about this. And so then later he was asked to go around to each of the row houses in this neighborhood near Broad Street. And he tabulated who died in each building of cholera. And he made a map of the city. He was the first epidemiologist. And he figured out that there was patterns in this area. Oh, everybody was dying, and over here, nobody was dying, and here some people were dying, and he was trying to figure it all out. And then he realized that at the brewery, everybody that worked at the brewery, they all lived in the same row houses as the other people living in the row houses, but they just drank beer all day. And beer goes through a process of purification, so it killed the bacteria of cholera. And he had an insight. It's in the water. It confirmed his original hunch. And when they wouldn't listen to him, so he put a lock on the Broad Street pump, and the cholera epidemic started to go away. So the way you know it's true is that people don't get as sick. The way we know this is true is that we're getting results. That when I know I'm getting results, that whenever I recognize it's my thinking, I calm down. I have better thinking. I have better relationships. I sleep better at night. My body's more relaxed inside. I'm more productive and efficient. I don't waste time worrying about what other people are thinking anymore, like I used to. I don't worry much. I regret very little. I just kind of more in the flow. I'm having a good time. That's how I know. So when you first have an insight, you're not sure, but if you test it out scientifically in your own way, you'll see that you get good results if it's true. And if it's not true, you'll get really bad results. Like when I first learned the principle, I thought, well, if I just tell everybody in the world about this, they'll be as happy as I was. And they looked at me like I was smoking hashish. And I was crazy. And I don't blame them. I looked crazy. I was evangelical. I was arrogant. I've got it, you don't. I was really off. And that was a lesson. My insight about it wasn't, but my insight to tell everyone in the world without getting permission or without having any evidence or without just take my word for it, it just didn't work very well. So the results, then Sid would always talk about this is, just keep doing good work. Don't try to convince anybody of this. Just, they'll know by the results. So like Modelo in South Florida. You know what that is, Michelle?
Yes.
So some of you probably read the Modelo book that Jack Pransky wrote. Dr. Roger Mills did this project in a very high crime-ridden, drug-ridden, violent, worse public housing area of South Miami, Dade County. And everybody in social services thought Roger Mills was completely Fruit Loop. He was completely crazy. The crazy doctor is coming. Here he comes again. After 2 years, they weren't thinking he was crazy anymore because the crime rate had fallen. People were taking care of their homes. Their kids were back in school. They had fewer calls from the police there. They got an award from Janet Reno, the Attorney General, as a model community. And all of a sudden, Roger got a respect. So the results speak for themselves. When people get a deeper understanding of how life works, their behavior changes. Not only does their thinking change, but how they act changes. And that's how you know that their thinking is better than the thinking they had before. So it takes a lot of patience, letting the results speak for themselves. Now, I don't know if I'm addressing your question, Michelle, or not. I hope I am.
Yes, it just seems probably on a breakthrough moment somewhere. It just seems it just feels like a big thing at the moment. As long as I was looking at thinking, all this was, just absorbed in ego and one thing and another. I think today is literally a year ago since someone told me about the three principles was the start of my journey with this. And probably a month ago now, I really, the focus completely shifted for me to, mind. And that we are a manifestation of mind. We're formed, we are mind like in the shell of a human being. And I saw that in all thinking is the thinker. And I know that's not news for a lot of people, but it was to me that whenever I was thinking, I was in there somewhere. And that in its, so the thing that keeps dragging me back to that space is fear. A lot of that fear is about decisions that I have to make for my son. He has some learning disabilities and needs 24-hour care. And the point that you're saying about people thinking you're crackers is talking to people in authority about the effect that his thinking has on his well-being without sounding completely crackers. And so I guess that's where my fear starts to suck me back into that vacuum of me and what does this mean? And I still get caught up in this story of it being a cop-out just to
Yeah, we lost you there all of a sudden. You froze.
The feed's frozen.
Okay. Well, let me just comment while we're waiting for her to get unfrozen. Or are you unfrozen?
I'm unfrozen. Are you unfrozen?
We're
Yeah,
unfrozen.
You froze
Oh,
there.
Sammy frozen.
But you can't, the more you think about your thinking, the more you're using the intellect rather than that deeper thought of knowing or wisdom or insight. So if you try to figure out if your thinking is real or if it's mind, you're already probably in your intellect. So you just, when you're working really hard at it, you just know, okay, I'm working too hard at this. Just let it alone for a bit. Sleep on it. Walk away from it for a while, and it'll be obvious at some point when your mind is away from it that you're either on or off. So one of the things that we know about resilience or mental health is that it's natural. And being natural, there's nothing you can do to make it happen. It's already there. It's already complete. It's already whole. So if you try to, it's like if a dandelion seed was floating through the air here and I tried to grab it, my hand would push the air in front of the seed and I would never be able to grab it because the air would keep me. But if I just let it fall in my hand, it would land on it. And then I could slowly close it and I would have it. But if I apply effort to try to grasp mind or grasp an insight, my effort keeps pushing it away innocently pushing it away, totally innocent. Because you want something, of course you're going to grab for it at first, but then after a while you realize, if I grab for it, it won't land on me. So I have to have patience, just trust that it's going to happen, and then, oh, okay, I got a whole handful of these guys. Here, you want one?
So can I try to feedback what's just come through for me from that, Joe, which is, to me, it looks like I've just asked you to show me that I can trust something that under a microscope doesn't exist, that has no form. And what I've just heard you say is that, and I think this is what I just heard you say, that what we can trust is what's produced by mind, the outcome of more peace, better mental health. Is that right? So we're trusting the outcome rather than actually trying to prove that it exists in the first place.
You'll never, ever see, we don't even know what gravity is. We fly planes, we go to the moon, we explore outer space on the principle of gravity, but no one's ever seen gravity. They've just seen the effects of it. So we know it exists, and the same thing is true with, if you go down to the very finest quantum level of matter, you can't see it. It's theoretical physics, they call it. But they know by through studies, how to prove the effect of it. So they know it's there even though they can't see it.
Yeah.
So it's like we have faith in invisible powers all the time. We can't see electricity.
And we can't see wind either, so we only see the effect of it.
Exactly. Most of the most powerful forces are completely invisible. And yet we take them for granted as though, well, of course, everybody knows there's gravity. Everybody knows the wind is what's blowing the leaves.
Yeah.
It's not fairies doing it.
Yeah.
But
That's a relief.
Before they understood that, they made up a lot of mythology about, what made the sun come up and down. It was Apollo with his chariot carrying it across the horizon. There were all kinds of theories that were as real to the people of Rome and Athens as gravity is to us. Oh, there goes Apollo pulling the sun. It seemed to be working. It came up every day, and thank God that we prayed and made offerings to Apollo, or it wouldn't have. Now, I forgot yesterday, and it was dark. It was kind of dark yesterday, so I think I need to, give Apollo an offering every day, and it's just crazy, innocent, ignorance of the truth. So the three principles really. It's still a big act of faith for most of us. But the evidence is growing every day. The evidence is growing. The credibility is growing. And at some point, it'll just be like, oh, everybody just kind of know about it. But we're pioneers. We're early, what do they call them? Early, what is it?
Something amazing.
Early arrivers or something. I don't know. Early adopters. There you go. Early adopters.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know by my own life. That's how I know. And I know by the life of other people who've had insight with this, that their lives get better. And now it's like I have zero doubt.
I've seen the quickest way out of thinking is to understand that we're here to serve. We're not here for us. I see it very clearly that we're not here for us. When we're in our thinking, it's like we're focused on the shell of us rather than what we are and what we're here to do. And we're here to be discoverers, curious, to share. Yeah.
Cool.
We just stay away from the thinking. Stand well back. Thank you very much, Joe.
Okay, Michelle.
And have a Merry Christmas.
You too.
Thank you.
Anybody else have?
Well, Joe, there were you thinking that it would be half an hour, and you're thinking, "Whoa, what am I going to do with this half an hour?" And we're 15 minutes over. So, let me mute Michelle. There we go.
Well, obviously, time is an illusion.
Uh-huh.
Because I thought we were about maybe 40 minutes into it. Well, sorry to have gone
1 hour
over.
45. It's amazing. No, it was so lovely. It was so lovely.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. And Brett, you and I need to talk for just a few minutes afterwards, if that's okay still. And I'm going to go hear the Beatles tonight.
Oh.
They're at First Avenue. Well, they're not really the Beatles, but they think they are. It's a John Lennon concert tribute.
Oh,
so I'll think of England and the Beatles while I'm at the concert tonight.
Thank you, and happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holiday to all of you.
Most importantly.
Bye-bye. Alan,
Right.
nice to see you.
Yeah, and I'll unmute everybody so everybody can everybody say goodbye? Okay. There you go, everybody.
Thanks,
Happy
Jen.
holidays.
Hi.
Good night, and thank you.
Happy
Goodbye.
Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Flood of sound. None of it's intelligible. I love you, by the way.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, Joe.